Oh, hi. I love mics. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Meytar Zehavi. I am a content creator and NFT community manager in Israel, a podcaster, and I've been in the space for about 6 months, and I practically fell in love. Now, before we actually dive into the panel, I want to see what is the vibe of the people we have here. So, do we have any NFT creators here? Okay. Do we have any NFT investors? Okay. Entrepreneurs? People that are looking for funding? Okay, that's good too. You need to know. Great. And I have another question. Who here likes taking risks? Okay, nice. We have a very brave audience today. Now, we all take risks on a daily basis. Obviously, just coming here, all of you took a risk because it could have been a pretty boring conference and you couldn't have known. So, good for you. Now, the reason that we take risks is because we see the opportunity. You guys saw the opportunity in learning something new, in meeting interesting people, and who knows what else. And the people that we have on the panel today is some of the bravest people ever, because they invest in people, which is probably the riskiest thing you can do. And they see the opportunity where everybody else see the risk. And this is what our panel is about. So without further ado, let's get to meet our panel. So I would like each one of you to introduce himself. Say your name, position, maybe a little bit about your experience, 2 to 3 sentences, keep it short. And then tell us about the worst investment you ever did and why it was the worst one.
Amazing. Hey, I'm Vanessa Grellet. I'm the head of portfolio growth at CoinFund. CoinFund is a web3 investment asset manager. We've been investing since 2015. We were all very early in NFTs. We invested in Dapper Labs. We invested in Rarible, Opshot, and other projects. We have about 1.5 billion under management. And this year, we created a dedicated vehicle just to invest in NFTs, NFT infrastructure, and double down on NFTs. So we're pretty excited about that. It's called Metaversal. And it raised about 50 million to just invest in NFTs. So excited to be here today to talk about our approach as a fund, but also as a separate vehicle. And the worst investment that we made, of course, we only made extraordinary investments.
All of us. Absolutely. Nobody fucks up, ever.
I really don't remember any bad investments, to be honest.
Really?
I don't.
I don't believe that. Just kidding.
Hi, this on?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Hi, I'm Stephen Waterhouse, also known as Seven. I live here now for the last 2 years. Big fan of Lisbon, and excited that we have so many people attending exciting conferences like this. Thanks to the hosts. I have been doing crypto since 2013. Co-founded Pantera Capital, and then started a security privacy project called Orchid, which we took public a couple of years ago. I still run that. I'm also a venture partner at Fabric Ventures. We've done investments in the NFT space, like SoRare, Axie Infinity, and a whole bunch of infrastructure recently. Personally, I also invest. I'm an investor in Mintbase. I bought a whole bunch of random NFTs over the last year, most of which actually did okay. And so I also angel invest in random things like Mintbase, DeFi Games, CumETH. All of the guys are here now. So yeah, excited to be here and hopefully say something intelligent.
Okay. Any worst investment?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I didn't invest in Ethereum, even though I could have done. So that was my worst investment that I didn't do. Because it was part of like a selection bias where I'd been really heavily into Bitcoin really early, and we were looking at all of these. We knew that there was going to be other stuff. Everyone was predicting blockchain as being a thing. So it wasn't like we were like, hey, this will never do anything else, but we saw so many examples of things that were just like Ethereum, including stuff that Vitalik had done earlier, like Mastercoin. And so when we saw Ethereum, we were like we're just so sick of seeing these deals. I don't think this is going to work. And they just seemed like they were just having a good time. So kind of like I learned a lesson on that one, which is not to pass on things just because you're kind of like you think too much, right? It's always worth just putting a little ticket in something because who knows, right? Might work out.
So it's a good advice.
Yeah, hello everyone. This is James Wu from DFG. I'm the founder of DFG and co-founder of J-Square. What DFG does is really from 2015 to today, we've been very focused on CeFi, equity investment, and right now the Polkadot ecosystem. So we grow from $20 million to $1 billion AUM right now. For J-Square, it's a new investment vehicle focused on end-user applications, including Metaverse, NFT, and GameFi. We've been investing to 50 different projects and manage $100 million right now. So that's basically two of our investment vehicle. Speaking of the worst investment, I would say the worst investment is not the point you buy the token, but it's really about the point you sell the token. For example, the worst case scenario for me is I sold Solana when it got listed. So the price is somewhere like $2.5. You can check the price right now. It's disaster. And but luckily everyone told me you should not only sell your position, you should short market because there's so many unlocked at that time. But luckily I didn't listen to them. So what I conclude the contradict to that, there's another positive example is Polkadot. I buy in Polkadot from 30 cents to 80 cents to it get listed. Right now still holding a lot of DOT. Right now become probably one of the largest DOT holder. So the price is not not that decent, but at least like above 20. So it's already big return for me. And I think one thing I'm concluding in this industry is really about thinking forward. What happens 3-5 years later, and try to hold your tokens for a long time instead of trying to listen to people around you. Then it's a short-term trading opportunity. You should sell it. So that's my a little bit of advice and conclusion for the experience.
Thank you. Okay. So let's talk projects. You guys are sort of experts in investing. I mean, not just investing in NFTs, you invest in companies, you've been investing in a lot of things, and like I said before, you can identify opportunities. What is your method in identifying good projects, in like finding the diamond in the mud?
So we invest across early stage projects, liquid, late stage projects, and NFTs. So all of these sort of investment strategies are a little bit different. But I think, early stage is my sweet spot, and I think it also applies to NFTs, is really finding the amazing entrepreneurs and amazing teams who have a vision and have the opportunity and the grit to execute it. And I really insist on the grit because it's, we're at the bleeding edge of, innovation. And in order to have that vision and understand what it takes to deliver it, it's a lot. It takes a team, but it takes a leader. And then in the decentralized world, it takes other skills in order to bring in a community together. So that's what we're looking for in early stage investors. Mm-hmm. For NFTs, there's obviously tons of different trading strategies, et cetera. But I think what we're looking for is, again, where's the innovation? Where is something that's different, that's unique? That is going to add value to the communities and is going to create a community that is going to bring the project forward and make it succeed. So that would be the two things we're looking for, at least at the early stage.
So team, innovation, interesting.
And grit.
And grit. I love grit. Okay, what about you?
So I have this theory where I try to build a model of how I think things are going to play out in an industry. So I spend a lot of time thinking about, it's like, people call it your thesis, right? So you think about like, where's the world going to? And most of us have like an idea. If you don't, you should figure it out. Because it's really important when you're investing to think about, what's your bias? Like, where do you think the world's going to go? Like, how are things going to play out? And that can have lots of different inputs. Right? It can be like geopolitical stuff, it can be technological, it can be things you're learning about the trends of the world. And the more you stay in tune with things, as an entrepreneur, as an investor, or just observer or collector, the more these kind of instincts as like what you think is going to happen starts to shape that. And the thesis can change a lot over time, of course. And so, as James was saying, is like sometimes you get someone like whispering in your ear, and you get the fear. You're like, oh my god, like apes are at 100, I should sell it. Oh no, maybe I should hold it. I don't know what to do. And you kind of, it's those moments where you have to go back and say, well, hang on a second, has my thesis changed? Is something else going on, or have my circumstances changed? Maybe I do need to sell the ape. So when I'm looking for, and I tend to also look at very early stage things. It's kind of, if you spend enough time thinking through that thesis, then when you find something that connects with that that you haven't seen yet, or kind of is something that takes something to the next stage, it starts to look very obvious, right? And it may not look obvious to other people who haven't thought through this, but that's why you see early stage investors like jump on things. And then the next combination is what Vanessa is saying, which is the team, because you can have like a great idea, but you just suck, right? You're just like, no, you're not gonna win. So you've got to really connect with the team as an investor, and you've got to look for kind of skills that you might, I guess maybe have developed yourself, or kind of like have seen a few different times work out. I was an entrepreneur, so still kind of in and out of that. So I have my own bias as to what I think is a good team or a bad team, and some teams end up being really good and I don't connect with them, so I don't do it. So it ends up being very personal for me. Other things that Vanessa was also, just riff on that, I've also invested in things like just collecting particular NFTs last year, where I got in very early and then didn't do other PFP things, or I switched very hard to algorithmic art last year, but early on I got into punks and apes really early. And the things I was looking for there were more inspired by initially sort of historical curiosity. Like the punk was just sort of like, okay, well, I guess this is like one of the first ones, so maybe I should get one. And then the apes were just, because the community just seemed so intense. Like everybody I knew was starting to get into it, and the Discord was going crazy when nothing else was happening. And so that just seemed like it would eventually figure itself out. But we'll see what happens, I guess. So I guess there's a lot of kind of also trying to do something different. Like my friend Pamir, who may or may not be here, he often talks about, he runs Libertas. He talks about, it's not always about making money, it's kind of being right? So he wants to be right. Look back and so knew he made the right decision, and I guess like history plays out the way he thinks it's going to go. So there's a lot of different ideas.
Yeah, I totally agree with two of you what say above. I think team is really important criteria when we make the investment. Just because it will give you, from purely investment perspective, it will give you a lot of certainty. Just imagine for the last bull market, the trend always shift from the end user applications, from DeFi become popular first, then NFT, then GameFi, then Metaverse. Even layer one take the turns for gaining good momentums. 2020 is Polkadot, 2020 first, beginning is Solana, then Avalanche. This year probably Cosmos have a good momentum. So, you can never know basically what is going to be popular for the next step. So what gives investment more certainty is you invest into good teams, right? So what they focus on is what they're capable of doing. That will actually, help you guys kind of gaining a lot of certainty. And once you invest the team and stay with the team for a long time period, at least a combination of bull and bear market, probably 3 to 5 years, then one day they will become popular, then you will get a lot of return. So that's actually one of our most important philosophy. There's others are important, technology, product, others, but most important things here for our investment is about team.
I love that. So it's all about team, innovation, and seeing the future, apparently. So you mentioned something very interesting. You said that you got into Bored Ape because of people around you, that they started talking about it, and it seems like a very interesting project. Now, what do you advise to people from here or people from all over the world who doesn't have that community around them that can tell them how to invest? It's like, how do you get exposed to this project in the right time? And what can you do?
Well, like PSA is PFPs are probably the new ICOs, so I'd just be very careful when you're putting a lot of money into things. Like, watch out. The reason I call it the next ICO is it's not bad, but the ICO phase was anyone could kind of go make something, go make an ICO, and like there's like ICO service companies. We're seeing PFP service companies now, and people can make things look very good very quickly, and a lot of people are doing it. That doesn't mean everything's going to be really bad, but it does mean that lots of things will be. It means that some things will do really, really well. But I'd just be really careful of the PFP space in general. PFPs is just sort of Bored Apes and punks and so on. Right? You probably have some thoughts on that too.
Yeah. So I think if you look at the NFT space, the way we think about it, so you have the PFPs, you have the generative art, you have other artists, either traditional artists or new coming artists that are creating art, and then you have the collectibles. So those are different communities and different sort of trading patterns that we see. So when you approach that, you can if you're active on Discord and if you're active on Twitter, I think what's extraordinary now is that everything is available. The information is out there. The question is, how much time do you invest in finding that information, right? And the other thing is there's artificial ways to increase volume and trading and prices, and it happens. And there's a lot of wash trading in the space. So there's, you might be super smart in getting all the queues. You have a big community. You have a large trading volumes. You have a lot of noise on Discord, et cetera. And some of it is artificial. So it's very hard. It can be very hard to distinguish if it's real or not. But the reality is that the prices are going up. And so how do you find that capability to make money while the prices are going up, and while basically maybe some communities are faking it until they make it, and they take time to create a community, et cetera, but there's still an incentive for people to come in. So it's an kind of an ICO situation, but we see with some PFPs that there's a real staying power in some of the project and real communities that are being formed. So I think I would go with the community that I vibe with. Also, it's really important. And if you're not there, just for the short term, money, but you're there for the long term, I think it really depends on your perspective. Are you there for the next 6 months? Are you there for the next 6 years? It really changes the way you're going to interact with all those projects.
So find a community, follow on Twitter, follow on Discord. That's your method for finding new projects. And in general, you gave a really good advice about PFP and ICO, and I think it's very important. Do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I will answer from a different angle. The question I understand is more from, to compare two things. One is your resources. The second is your investment philosophy. Which one is more important, right? Just imagine if you don't have the resources, but you still can insist on your investment philosophy, you still can be very successful. Just taking myself as an example, I've been very busy in the past 7 years allocating capital to more than 150 different portfolios, fly to different countries. But when I calculate return, all the return I get right now, just compared to what I hold Bitcoin at 2015 and doing nothing, sleeping and travel for 7 years, the later ones do bigger than right now, right? So that's a very I think interesting example that if you choose the right thing and insist on your investment philosophy, then it's probably more important than the resources in the industry, because people will be, I would say, on one hand, be very jealous to these top-tier venture capital have so many resources that can, get in good project in early stage. But on one hand, I tell you the truth is, if you insist on your philosophy, even though you don't have much resources, you can still do better than these VCs. That's actually my honest opinion to everybody.
The other thing I wanted to add is the value of being early, whether it's in projects or NFTs or DAOs, or if you're investing in land, NFTs, or gaming, is invaluable. And so I would encourage everyone to really, do the work and try to get in early, try to understand who's behind the project, trying to connect the dots, et cetera, and just getting a feel of what's coming, and a little bit aligned with your investment thesis. If you're interested in a specific area, let's say you're passionate about land and the metaverse, I mean, there's tons of opportunities, right? And the people who got in early, I think, reap the rewards of that.
Yeah, I think it's also, to that point, it's kind of like looking where other people aren't looking. So my friend Kevin, who's actually giving probably a much better talk than I can give, Kevin A. Bosch right now, you should check out his work. He set me up looking at the Tezos blockchain, and I'm like, I know the Tezos people, and they're nice people, but I tend to do a lot of stuff on Ethereum. Then I checked out the Tezos thing. I was like, oh, well, there's all these really, really cool artists, and there was artists that were like actually pretty famous on art blocks, minting under aliases there, and so I ended up like doing a couple of things on Tezos, but that stuff's really shot up in value recently, and I know like the guys from Mintbase are here, and the Near blockchain now has art sort of moving over there. You start seeing artists start to say, hey, you know, like artists are also very, and also projects like, you know, like artist projects, whole same thing. They're very kind of, they sometimes want to look somewhere else, just like I'm saying, like look, you know, be where everybody's not looking. So other blockchains, and I'm not saying that PFPs are all like, we're going to lose all your money, but if you think about, in general investment thesis is you've got to have diversification. You want to concentrate to make a lot of money, but then you also still need to have some diversification within that concentration. So, you know, like if I was starting again now, I'd say, well, okay, well, let me figure out who are the top up-and-coming PFP projects if I was just doing that. Analyze the Discords, analyze the Twitter, who's following them, and I'd make sure I got in the mint, not into, you know, the sort of like, it's been 3 weeks later and things already gone up 500%. Getting in very early into things, and then not concentrate too much on that, but then move on to the next thing, just keep doing that. Eventually one of them will hit, hopefully, and 9 of them will die, and that one that hits will wake everything else up like many, many times, like your example of Bitcoin.
Nice. So don't take anything personally. It's like, just keep going. I love that. That's a very important approach. So let's talk exit. Now, we all know in order to make money, you need to sell. It's not enough to buy. What is your strategy when it comes to exiting?
So we're long-term investors. So, you know, when the unlock comes, we'll stay with the project. We have...
What, just 1 second? What do you call long-term? Like, what is the...
So the life
period?
cycle of the funds are 6 to 8 years. The vehicle that we created for our NFT strategy is actually a company, so that it's not a fund. It can stay for a very long time with the NFTs. So for us, it's really important. That being said, the timing at which you sell, of course, is also important. And, you know, sort of when that time elapses, we'll assess if it's right to sell immediately. Given that, you know, the industry is only like, what, 15 years old, it's kind of, you know, you need to think about that. We have some exits right now of companies that are going to be bought. So we're starting to see like more maturity in the exit. It's not just the tokens and then trading the tokens. So we're at an interesting time where the industry is maturing, and you do have, you know, investors who will sell immediately once they can get liquidity, but that's not our approach. And what we do is we work very closely with the projects in order for them to evolve and grow and scale. And we want to make sure that they're successful and that we can help them do that.
So how do you make money? Because in the end, you need to give back to the investors. So first of all, what is the time period that you say that you're going to give back the money? And
so the funds are 6 years. I don't know how long is your fund, but
6 years for NFT projects?
No, for companies.
Okay, and for NFT projects?
And for NFT projects, we have a company that could do an IPO. There's more opportunities for investors to buy back their shares and stuff like that.
Okay, so it's a different process.
I'll talk about this as a personal investor. Fabric doesn't have an NFT fund right now. We've been mostly investing in NFT infrastructure. So I don't quite know how we would construct it, but probably similar to how Vanessa's talking about things. I mean, one of the things about NFTs specifically is you may not need to sell to have liquidity. Certain projects have been kicking off other rewards over time. We just had the ApeCoin, and Punk's had the me bit, and there's been kind of like these sort of like other things that get kicked off over time. And now there are mechanisms for like NFT staking and NFT fractionalization. So there could be other ways that the thing you bought may be worth holding. And this is a bit sort of similar to people buying ETH and then staking it, or like putting Bitcoin and staking it. So like or wrap Bitcoin at least. The thing that is also similar is in the art space, funds tend not to sort of liquidate their Picasso that they bought 10 years ago. They're actually holding it. And they could be, like borrowing against it, for example, and invest in that instead. I mean, every cycle has a top, right? Like we tend to see these bull market, bear market cycles, and things move around. A lot of it really depends on what is your time horizon, and when you go into something, decide what that is. It's like, am I in for this, short term, long term, and that could be different on every single thing. I don't do a lot of day trading anymore. Like it's kind of scary, but there is times where I will just go into something because I'm like, hey, I know that's going up, and this is my number, and I'm out. And then if it's like keeps going up, okay, well maybe I'll be a bit sad, but there's always another day. It'll be fine.
Yeah, from our side, one benefit we have is we don't have any LPs for both DFG and J Square, so I can hold a token whenever I want to hold, even for a really long time or other strategies. So we've been very flexible on that. What I think about the time to exit is really thinking more about a full cycle, bear market and bull market. That's more like 3 to 4 years. If I think my position will be outdated for the next bull run, then probably it's a good time to exit. For example, if you're holding US or Tron in 2017, it's popular at that time, but it fails to be successful in this bull run. The opposite example is Ethereum. A lot of people talking about Ethereum have all kind of problems back to 2017, but right now Ethereum still grow pretty fast and pretty good. More importantly is to thinking this full cycle for the next bull run. Is the position you're holding, why does layer 1 protocol or application, is that outdated or not? If it's not, you'd rather hold it. If it's outdated, probably you can exit. It's probably the best strategy you have.
You all have very different perspectives, and it's very interesting to hear. It's like, I think it really enriches the entire audience right now. Well, we really don't have a lot of time, so I'll ask one more question, and then, where is the other guy? Can I have like 3 minutes after? Yes? Yes, okay. So let's talk a little bit about the future. What do you see is going to be the main trends in NFTs in 2022 to 2023?
So one trend that is top of mind is gaming. Obviously, we might still be a little bit early in terms of adoption of NFTs in gaming and making that interoperable, etc. But I think we're in the period where people are building that, and that's pretty exciting. So I really like that theme in terms of NFTs. The other thing is the financialization of NFTs, which Stephen was alluding to, the capacity to lend my NFTs, borrow, get yield. There's a lot of infrastructure that's being built around price formation and just making the NFT trading more liquid, and I think that's pretty exciting. And then in the future we'll see the confluence of that with real world assets represented by NFTs. I mean, again, still further down the line, but we see examples of. We have a company who's doing indices of NFTs, and they're in talks with holders of real-world assets who want their real-world assets to be included in the NFTs and leverage the DeFi ecosystem in order to trade. So that's where I see things going, and then the growth of people coming into the space, which is super exciting.
I love it.
Yeah, everything she just said, I'm also excited by the use of NFTs in things like Uniswap v3 was one of the first ones to do this, where actually your LP position is an NFT. There's some guys I invest in called Nested Finance, which allows you to kind of create positions and then have other people copy them. NFTs related to identity, I think, is interesting, that we could sort of scan in today. I kind of got doxed, but you kind of scan and you get this thing and get by something else. That connected with zero-knowledge proofs, I think, will be a very interesting component of the more generalized future where we could actually build things like social networks based around those attributes that identify me in some way.
Yeah, I agree. Vanessa almost covered everything I want to say. Yeah, what I'm thinking about is really about the combination about gaming and NFT, so making NFT more useful. Right now, you just have a photo. What is the utility of the photo, right? So if you can fit that into the games, that will really add a lot of functionality and feature, and and make it more comparable with different games. That's also probably the next step. Metaverse a little bit too early, I would say, because the functionality of Metaverse is very early stage. If you go to decentralized, you can build a building. What else, right? So it's at a very early stage. So I believe the combination of gaming or NFT was probably the first step. Then probably Metaverse and other stuff will come in later. So that's my thoughts about it.
Amazing. Okay, I don't want to hold these guys too much up from lunch, so pick 2 questions. That's it. That's what you have. So like the best question you have. Okay, you think you're good enough? Okay. So stand up, one of you. Yeah, you go. You need to stand up.
Hi there. Has any 3 of you done degenerate gambling before? And if yes, why? And how did it go?
Sorry, we did what kind of gambling?
Degenerate gambling. Have you heard of it, sir?
Like just DeFi? I mean, what are you talking
sorry?
Well, can you define that term?
Oh yeah, degenerate gambling is that you put in money, hoping to flip it. Like it can be crypto, it can be NFTs, it can be stocks, it can be anything.
So high risk investment?
Yes, exactly. Like getting face first, investing money, doing a quick flip, or long-term investment can be as well.
Like, the question is, do we trade crypto?
That's not. The question is, have you done degenerate gambling before? Like gambling on magic internet money or NFTs? And
I think if I understand correctly, you're basically saying when you don't have a lot of knowledge on an investment, did you do it anyway?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Like
degenerate. Like you know nothing and
yes,
you go anyway.
yes, I have traded crypto.
So as a fund, obviously we're trying not to do that and trying to understand what we're investing in, and also we have risk adjusted returns that we need to provide to our LPs. So that's the framework in which we operate. Have I done that? Probably. There are some really high APYs available over the past several years. So if you take a leap of faith, there's always a risk that you're going to get hacked. There's always a risk that a bridge gets hacked or anything along the way. And I think you need to experiment and understand what's out there.
Yeah, I think I have done a lot in Macau and Las Vegas, but not in the crypto industry.
Yeah. You. Yes. Last question. Make it good.
So how worried are you about investment DAOs as investors, right? So they're coming for, do you think they're coming for you?
Ooh, I love that.
Do we think DAO? Hang on.
Investment DAOs specifically.
You turn me off. I'm back on again. Are DAOs coming for us?
Investment
Like
DAOs.
everybody. Right.
Well,
The DAOs are coming for us all.
they're coming for the big
They're coming for me.
Well, you mean basically like that when you do DAO, you can invest like VCs?
Let's run a little experiment.
DAOs.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
Let's run a little experiment. So I'm going to give you 2 options. Number 1, you can invest in a fund that we start and we run, right? Number 2, we're going to invest in a fund where we all make decisions together. Which one do you prefer? Okay. Why do we prefer the first one? Because that's what I would do too. It's like when you invest in a startup, you're like, oh no, I'm the CEO. I'm not the CEO. I'm not going to make any decisions. We all make decisions together. There's like nothing's going to happen, right? So I really like DAOs from the perspective of governance and being able to vote on things. Like I vote on curve things. I vote also some random things. My degenerative gambling habit. But when it comes to making hard decisions, like making a really risky bet on something when you're investing or gambling, I prefer to invest in somebody where I'm like, this person makes decisions. So DAOs don't solve all the problems that we think they're solving. They are really like on-chain transparent mechanism for governance. But the way that the governance works is another question. I like them for fundraising. And I like to be able to invest in them as well. But I still like to know that someone's making a decision that isn't everybody's decision.
So I'm going to take the counter argument to that. So we invested in Syndicate DAO, which powers a lot of like the investment DAOs. So it's a wrapper that you can create really easily, a legal wrapper, so that you can create your investment DAO off the shelf. And then personally, I invested in Tribute Labs, which powers Flamingo DAO and other big DAOs that are investment DAO focused on art or NFTs or fashion, etc. And I think there is something about the power of community that those DAOs create, whether they started as investment DAOs or not. Think with friends with benefits and all that stuff, and there's value creation there. And you could take the argument that they're coming for VCs, yes and no, because you always have the two options that's even put out there. But I would say like the second one, where everyone makes decision, if the governance is well thought out, could be very powerful with the community and getting alpha.
I was kind of giving extremes. So
Yeah. But
I agree.
Yeah, they've been very successful investment DAOs.
I mean, I'm incubating a DAO right now for DeFi, so like I do believe in them. I'm just giving you the extremes, because sometimes like people look at things like, oh, this can solve all my problems. Like, no, actually, it creates more problems or solves some of them.
Complex.
James, do you have anything to add?
Overall speaking, probably the project definitely need more decentralized governments than the investment. Just imagine, because the project need to have a lot of users and adoptions, so you will have a lot of token holders, right? So everyone has the rights to, kind of vote if you are the token holder for the project. Just like it's better than the traditional space. If you are a small equity holder for a company like Apple or Microsoft, you don't have the rights to vote for the company to how it will be in the future. But for in the crypto industry, they solve the problem. But will it be successful in the investment aspect? Maybe not, maybe yes. Because just imagine in the traditional space for VCs, it's still very private. A lot of big LPs writing check to these VCs, they do investment. It don't necessarily need a lot of small investor to put into a VC, right? But for others, like more like a public fund, maybe yes. So I will leave a question mark here whether investment need to be decentralized or not. It could be yes, it could be no in the future. That's my answer.
Good point. Okay, we really need to finish. So last sentence from each one, and we're done.
Whether you're
last sentence, one.
Yeah.
Short. Yeah.
Whether you're an entrepreneur or an investor, stay bold and look to the future.
Okay, I'm happy to talk to everyone if everyone want to chat anything about crypto with me.
Amazing. One sentence.
I don't know, take lots of risks, stay safe, something like that.
Okay, I love that. Thank you so much, everybody.